We are the first people to ever walk the peninsula of Florida. For over 14,000 years, we have navigated the land, watching it as it transformed from the dry plains in the Ice Age into the lush wetlands of the Everglades we know today. The ancestors adapted with the changing lands as the waters rose. We built platforms and mounds to keep our homes dry, even during the rainy season. We created canoes that could easily cross the wetlands gliding on the water. But traveling on foot was always a part of our timeless journey. This knowledge of the trails and waterways of Florida helped our ancestors to survive when colonizers arrived. Throughout the times of war and disease, these trails allowed our people a way to travel and maneuver, so the invaders did not understand and could not follow or track. From the Spanish to the armies of the United States, the trails provided cover and refuge for our people. The trails are the reason the Seminole tribe remained unconquered. They kept the tribe's homes and gardens hidden to the outside, and they were used by Seminole traders who could travel and sell their goods without putting their families at risk. Over the last 150 years, substantial changes have come to the ancestral lands once traveled by our people. The constructions of roads and rail, expansion of communities and farms, invasive species, both plant and animal, and most of all the draining of the Everglades, has fundamentally altered the environment of Florida. Now, nearly all the trails that were home to the Seminoles exist only in our memories. Through oral histories, stories, and legends, combined with historical maps and documentation, Seminole people can share a depth of knowledge about the trails that had existed in our cultural landscape. The Seminole tribe of Florida has adapted and thrived despite the changes of the last century. We also remember the significance of the land and trails and the pivotal role we have played in the survival and resilience of our people during the most challenging of times. The trails that crossed the area northeast of the Big Cypress Reservation were part of this timeless network. They played crucial roles in transportation, trade, and military operations across history. With the spread of roads and canals in the early 20th century, the trails were crucial pathways and the safest options for tribal members. The drainage of the wetlands initially made routes between Big Cypress and Immokalee and even the Brighton Reservation more reliable. Seminole families frequently used them to move between the reservations in search of work. When the Big Cypress Reservation was planned in 1911, it included portions of the trails. Other surrounding land was sold off, first to investors during the Florida land boom of the 1920s and ranchers afterwards. In the early part of the 20th century, the Immokalee community had a rush of growth with the arrival of the railroad. With it came jobs in the lumber industry that attracted Seminole workers. Over the years since the property was bought, agriculture and development have taken their toll on the trails. Canals and large fields for farming destroyed most of them, while most of the southern trail was developed into cattle pastures. Unfortunately, due to the development of the land, there is barely a trace of the trails today. In 2003, the McDaniel family began to sell portions of their ranch land. Plots of this land were sold to various business interests, such as both the Seminole Tribe of Florida and Florida Power and Light. These properties, purchased by FP&L, included areas that had previously been part of the historic trails network. Before they were bought by FP&L or the McDaniels family, they connected Seminole camps in Big Cypress to the ones in Immokalee. During the period of 2016 to 2017, tribal archaeologists within the Tribal Historic Preservation Office undertook the challenging task of retracing the developed trails. Despite their altered state, the tribal archaeologists combined oral histories from knowledgeable elders with the use of modern and historical aerial imagery for remote scanning.
Hey ya, ho ya, 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 hey ya, ho ya.
As the trails vanished or were blocked, our people lost their primary route of travel. The growing canals and roadways that let Americans travel further into the wetlands were boxing our people in. As always, the tribe adapted to the times. Automobiles and trucks were bought, allowing them to travel more freely. Despite all the transformations of the last 100 years, remnants of the trails can still be found. The Sam Jones Trail, named after a great war hero during the Seminole War, exists today. Now repurposed as a significant stretch of County Road 833 and the Josie Billie Highway. The historic trail network once connected our communities, preserving our rich cultural heritage for generations. However, the relentless encroachment of American land claims and development eventually severed these sacred pathways, erasing our presence from the landscape. Today, the vibrant legacy and indomitable spirit of the Seminole lives on through annual events that honor our ancestors. These commemorative gatherings feature cattle drives, retracing the historic trails once bravely navigated by our predecessors, ensuring that the vibrant legacy of the Seminole people endures for generations to come.